Okay, good day everybody. Today I'm going to be talking about a concept that's known as Brahmacharya, right? And it's probably not much familiar in the Western society, but it is a very very important path for a spiritual seeker, regardless of whatever his religious background is, or whatever if he has a religion, if he doesn't, because generally the ultimate thing is all religions generally, I think it's already commonly understood in many places these days that there is only one pathway generally towards God realization. So this path, it's known as Brahmacharya, is one of the highest spiritual paths for any serious seeker, and I cannot stress this enough, through experience. So basically, the first thing about Brahmacharya is what it means. If you look in Google and Wikipedia, you'll know that Brahmacharya is derived from two words, primarily Brahman and Charya. Brahman refers to the all-pervasiveness of the Almighty God, which resides in each and every one of us, sort of thing. If you read the texts of Sanatana Dharma, you'll understand, that God, is actually all-pervasive, omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent, so to speak. But I mean, to understand God, that's another separate topic there. But again, I'm just going to talk more about this pathway, Brahmacharya. So that's Brahman, which is God, basically, and Charya means to follow a path. So basically, Brahmacharya is the pathway towards God realization. And most people understand it with strict celibacy, and that's not entirely the case, and I'll go through that today. But basically celibacy is the most important part of it, but that's not all of it, because it is truly a great word, because it encompasses almost all of the spiritual seeker's requirements, and I'll go through that briefly. So basically, the first stage of Brahmacharya is to master. That's the better word. To master, not to control. To master your senses, which is all your senses. Generally, it's the word called pratyahara, which is withdrawal of senses. And but out of that, the most important is the physical component in the beginning, as I'm saying, talking about just the physical. So in order for you to have a consciousness similar to that of God, you need to remove all these negative vasanas, sanskaras, and what they are basically negative fluctuations on the mind, all these negative thought patterns that develop over time because of the great conditioning that we have today. And so basically, in order to remove all of that, you need to detach yourself, which is the right word, in a detachment, which is also known as vairagya in Sanskrit. And I cannot stress how important this is for a spiritual aspirant. And Brahmacharya is basically part of that, but it's focused, the physical aspect generally is focused, geared generally on the sexual aspect. So basically, one has to be able to, in the beginning, he needs to make a voluntary effort. And that's a bit of like tapasya. That's a physical tapasya, because it's a voluntary choice for the individual to say, no, I'm not gonna be involved in such and such behavior, such and such acts. And it's quite difficult these days, but one has to strive and do whatever he can to generally proceed and succeed. So the first step is obviously you must be able to control your masturbation habits. And then slowly from there, once you master that sort of thing, then you'll be able to basically, you don't need to masturbate. And but generally, to so to speak, in order to master your physical senses, it's quite difficult because of the conditioning we all have been through. And one of the most important things, prerequisites, I would say, is the 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 path of the path of purity, which is known as, through the natural way, the path of purity is the path of I guess vegetarianism that would come into place, because generally, in order to control your physical, generally what you will see is that if you start to seriously practice pure celibacy, you'll find that generally it'll be very difficult for you, and therefore it's a gradual process. And one of the most important things that will be of hindrance to you is your physical diet. And your diet has to therefore be very strict, and you need to therefore follow a certain strict diet in order to master this. And there are certain diets that are actually called sattvic in the Sanatana Dharma text, which you need to understand that as well, but that's again a different topic. But basically, there are foods that are not conducive for Brahmacharya, its purity. There are certain few foods that are called rajasic and tamasic, which generally aggravates your sexual temptations and desires. And if you're intaking, most of these, for instance, would be meat products, and fish, egg, and all these things. If you need to, and even like spicy foods, oily foods, all that has to be controlled, and obviously not only controlled but stopped. So basically, therefore, in order to actually practice the physical path of Brahmacharya, you would need to first of all deal with all these issues, and these issues are the demons, really. And then from there you'll be able to slowly, gradually master your physical temptations. And once you've mastered your diet, then you'll slowly be able to gradually master your physical Brahmacharya aspect, and then you would not really require to masturbate, or you'd be able to control yourself physically, even though you won't be able to in most cases, but you can through Ishwari Paridhana, which means surrender to God. So basically, all these things are very important, but these things will also be there, but we need to make a start towards this goal. And once we go through all these steps, then after maybe years of practice, you will be able to slowly be able to be free from sexual temptations. Especially in the West, everything is of hindrance, really. Everything is of temptation, everything is of lust. You see pictures of females and semi-naked, semi-nude everywhere around YouTube, etc. So all these things, conditioning will take time and effort, but over time you'll be able to reach a certain stage where you can you'll have a certain willpower and control that you'll be able to master that. Now the second stage of the physical aspect is known, this is like the hard, most difficult aspect, but not many people succeed, and it's not, you don't have to succeed, is that once you're able to control your masturbation practices, you might still notice, and mostly people will, is that you will still, and even if you have controlled all your diet and you've always been in a strict Gandhi diet as well, you will still notice that there are certain, in every maybe couple of weeks or couple of months, you will see that hey, you're having these nocturnal ejaculations, seminal ejaculations, and you try to have full control over semi or seminal ejaculations regardless of what. Even if you don't masturbate, somehow those nocturnal things come, and in order to master that, which is basically to have full control over your negative thoughts. What it means is that when you control your physical aspect, you will see that sometime, one way or the other, when you sleep, you have these negative temptation visions, and you actually, when you wake up, you realize that you've actually lost. You've had a nocturnal ejaculation, so as to speak. But that being said, I mean, that's a very difficult thing, but in order to master that, it takes great effort. But you don't have to. We don't have to be at that level. But I'm just saying that once you're at that level, then you've almost reached that stage of great consciousness. That you almost other times you're all pervasive and all happy. So you're almost at that great stage of your consciousness development. But so that's the final stage of Brahmacharya, known as the Akhanda Brahmacharya. And then I guess you have these great people like Swami Vivekananda, who've practiced that sort of Brahmacharya for 12 years. I mean, practically, I don't know how it is possible to do that in this great society, Kali Yuga, what we call it, or whatever you want to call it. It's full with temptation and everything. So basically, that's a difficult aspect, but that being said, there's the other aspect called the mental Brahmacharya, which you can practice, which you're practicing when you're doing physical Brahmacharya. But once you've practiced physical Brahmacharya for at least a year or 2 years or 3 years or something, then you can start looking into the mental, and that will help you to develop this Akhanda Brahmacharya, and it's an ongoing process. So the mental Brahmacharya is to have purity over thought, word, and deed. So basically, every time you think, you would basically try to say no. You try to go back, negate. You see a woman dressed in beautifully red or whatever, and you have all these temptations. You would try to say no to them. You would make a great effort to say no. I'm not going to be part of it. I'm not going to be attached to the female component. And then over time, you will reach a stage where even if you see a female semi-naked, you don't have the desire to be with her, or you desire to have sexual relationships. And that is a very important thing. That is a great achievement. Even if whatever your background is, whatever your sexual background is, I don't care. But anyway, the idea is to be free, to be pure. A person is pure when he has all these lustful temptations kind of gone and destroyed, or sort of thing, over time, because they're all demons. These are all the demons that's within each one of us. The desire to eat meat, and desire to eat flesh, desire for flesh, which is attachments, desire for material things. So these are all part of what's known as Vairagya, and Brahmacharya is really the high way. So once you do all that, you also receive divine blessings from God, and God will assist you with that path of spiritual development. But most people have forgotten all this, but this is very important. If you're really serious about finding that stage of progress in your path of life, and that final stage of enlightenment, which is obviously far away from all of us, I guess many people. But even if you have to develop yourself over time, even if you're Christian or Hindu, Muslim or Jew, it doesn't matter. If you're really curious, if you're really passionate, this is the path. Then, because the path is always to do with nature. You need to follow what nature is. You need to align yourself with nature. That's why Sanatana Dharma is also known as eternal natural way. And the natural way of dealing with your own consciousness and subduing your negative thoughts and patterns, so that you can slowly be pure. Living in a world of turmoil, you become what is known as a Nitya Sannyasi. You become free from all these great attachments and bondages of material life, and that's when you become, I guess, a true Nitya Sannyasi yogi, I guess. And this is the path that will lead you to your true self, which is actually pure love. You start to see the radiance, you start to experience bliss through meditation once you be able to practice Brahmacharya. And I mean, this is a very important video, because there's so many people out there today practicing various spiritual practices. They have no understanding. They want to seek all these 29 gurus, and thinking that they're going to find this great sort of, peace and happiness, tranquility, when they don't want to make an effort to practice. Hopefully this would be a great video for yourself, and thank you for listening.